We'll do a short wrap-up. Okay, but what we would like to do is we just exchanged a lot of examples, and we thought it was nice to also exchange some examples with all of us here. And we're not doing that just by order, or we just ask, okay, who likes to share a nice example of either the jewels or what becomes more or less important, and yeah, we'll just exchange some for the next 15 minutes. So, who likes to share something? Yeah, the first question, for instance. Actually, both questions. We don't have order in that.
For the first question, we came up with the idea of the coming and going of civilizations as being an example of reincarnating groups, and karma being worked out again. And maybe we as a Western society are all, or maybe a lot of them are coming from the Roman Empire, and we are rebuilding our Roman Empire in modern age. So that is for me a good example of reincarnation as a group.
Okay, thank you. Some other examples. Ralph?
Yeah, we came up with the example, if you got a new job, yeah, and we know if we got a new job, yeah, everyone has own expectations, yeah, and in the light of the three jewels, yeah, these own personal expectations become less important. Yeah. More important then is the climate between the new colleagues, yeah, and the relationship become more important than the function. Yeah. It was another example.
Okay. Nice. Thank you.
Maybe we should explain it a little bit more what we meant with new job, because this must be clearer. It was that starting a new job we thought was a nice example for re-embodiment or reincarnation, as we see. You start a new job, you get contact with so-called new colleagues. So those new colleagues are old connections, as we can say. That was a nice example for the karmic connections too. And then when that job ends sometimes, either by getting unemployed or getting or retiring, then you have the example for the death, where you have to enter a new situation. So that's what we liked very much.
Check
from
your
this
stuff
example.
again, etc.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Thank you.
I think actually, as a consequence for teasing me so much, that April should say something, but I'll do it this time. A nice example was when you meet seemingly new people in your life that you connect or fall in love, or you reject them outrightly, you know, for seemingly no reason. And that some things like disease happen in your life, and usually they work as a wake-up call, if you're aware. And there was a nice example of hierarchies also in the plant world, because some plants are more useful to their environment than others, like plants that you can use as a medicine, for instance.
Okay, thanks. Here we had another one. Yeah.
The first, for reincarnation, it's something like we connect, whether in relationship or people or life or nature or our travels. It's like we are over and over again and again being born. So we have impressions which we carry with ourselves. And those impressions, they become relative to our birth in every time when we come into consciousness. That is our karma, that we come with those impressions, and then we connect according to our karma. Either we are conscious about our real self, that is our acting self, and our energy self, which is, in some cultures we call it soul. So, and how these two connect with each other, and then we relate in relation to that, to our own likes, dislikes, ego and naturalness, or you can say fruitfulness or love, to connect with people. And that leads to different kind of actions in the third part as the hierarchy, that it kind of rules within us, and by observing and being patient, we connect with that.
Okay, thank you.
I'm a musician, or at least I try to be, and I play in a band with all kinds of different musicians. I play the piano, we have a guitar player, we have a drummer, we have the bass player. So every band starts with an idea. You have an idea of what style to play, and the band holds together as a unity, actually. As long as you not get tired of the idea. As soon as you get tired of the idea, you stop with the band and you start a new band. But while playing in the band, you build up a relationship with all the musicians. So when you start another band, some of the musicians you take with you, and some will be replaced by another musicians having their own style. So you have different bands, each time in a different style, and you keep the relationship, the people which you build up a relationship with. And there's another thing in that. There's another thing that stays, and that's the song you play. With all those different bands, there are some songs I will keep playing, but every time with each band, it sounds different, because on one hand you have the musicians who stay, on the other hand you have new different musicians. We give a new sound to the band.
Nice. Yeah.
So we have a cyclic motion, we have karmic consequences of building a relationship,
Yeah.
and you have the unity of a band as a hierarchical structure. So.
Okay. Great example. Thank you.
Well, our group had many wonderful ideas on number one. We talked a bit about family relationships too, and colleagues we work with in different situations. And one of the ideas was that we often get frustrated with our personality differences, our different approaches. And we can often see through karma and reincarnation that this is something that was meant for us as a challenge and a way to hopefully transcend our differences or somehow unite them. And if we are able to think in terms of our own inner hierarchy, our higher self, and look down at our situation from the universal point of view, then maybe we can say, oh, maybe I can look at this in a different way, and maybe we can find a way of harmonizing, because it does take a lot of reason, and I think karma and reincarnation give us those keys to accept and not be impatient or frustrated with our differences, because as I think Hank said in the earlier presentation, you know, it's finding these ways of having harmonious relationships that really work. And we may have almost all our relationships are positive and harmonious, but it's the one or two that aren't. That's where our opportunity is. And that's where we can grow. So that was one thought of the trying to put those three principles together.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Bart?
That's very interesting. We had more or less the same conclusion, because we concluded that human consciousness in itself is a hierarchy. So there is a higher and a lower part. And the conclusion was, who is in charge? If the higher part is in charge, then you accept your situation, then you cooperate with your fellow humans. But when the lower part is in charge, things are different.
Yeah. Simplest form of a hierarchy, just two parts. Yeah. Okay. Let's go to the next question, because we exchanged some examples. We already had some examples of the second question. For instance, what becomes more important when you enter a new job or in a job? But maybe there are some other examples too. What becomes more and what becomes less important in the light of these three jewels? Okay. Who's next?
Okay, we had a discussion about what becomes important is how you think and the perspective you have. And because with that, how you're thinking has an impact, because as you think, you start acting. And so if you take a look at the jewels and you start recognizing them, then you change your thinking pattern. And of course, once you change your thinking pattern, you'll change your life, and you change or you impact all those around you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
I think a long-term policy for yourself over many incarnations is a direct consequence of the idea of reincarnation and karma.
Okay. Something to think about. Yeah. April.
I would just say that when you are in this issue about where are we coming from when we act is a tricky one, and most of us here have a very idealized sense of ourself. That's part of our ego. That's why we're here. We're looking for this. What is this mystery? So I think that Mara. Which is another way of talking about ego. Mm-hmm. It's very easy to convince yourself you're acting from your higher self, and in disguise, your ego is acting. So I think it's a many lifetime process to transmit the lead into gold, and to really understand who you are, and come to grips with it, and embrace it, and in a sense, use it for the betterment of humanity. But I think that takes a lot of devotion and commitment and humility, great deal of humility, and recognizing your own ego to that. And then I would say that in terms of results, that one of the important things is learning to live the process without worrying too much about the results. In the Bhagavad Gita, for example. It's about the process, really. In the end, even though the outcome, we always look at outcomes, and we need to look at outcomes to function, really the spiritual part of living is about the process. So I think we do our best, and we learn from the process, and we keep growing, and over time, the lead gets a little bit more gold in it.
Okay.
But it takes a long time.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, let's see this as a process of sharing examples. It's not about the results. Richard. It sort of is too, yeah.
This is partly an observation and partly a question. When I was up in the San Francisco Bay Area, they have a Buddhist retreat there, or organization, et cetera, et cetera. I can't remember the name of it. And you walk along a path, and they have different little signs that say, you know, trying to give you words of wisdom. And this one keeps sticking in my mind, and it seems to not be answered by anybody too correctly to me, or at least it's not clear to other people. But I read this sign that said, just remember, when you're with any group of people, you're the least important. And I'm not sure how entirely to interpret that. But and the more I think about it, you know, there's some real wisdom there. Really, if you think about in different groups, okay, you may know something about this or that, but really the whole picture, you know very, very little. I mean, what do I know about plumbing or electricity, et cetera, et cetera? You know, and the overall big picture. So it keeps sticking with me that, yeah, when I go into a group, I'm the one that's the least important here. And you know, it's just something I throw out, and maybe other people say, well, you know, that's extreme, et cetera. Actually, I asked that to a Lama or something when he was in Ojai, and he wasn't too happy with it. But anyway.
Well, just to share, I just read a very similar thing in a book from the Dalai Lama, and he said you could view your lower self and your personality, and then find out that you're really watching that from another perspective, if you do that. And then you can give your attention to this lower self, which is just one person, or you can give your attention to everyone else. So how would you divide that? So that was a very nice example, I thought also. Yeah. Okay. Some more. Welcome.
I would like to react on Richard's sign. If the whole group walks across that sign, they all are together the least important. So, but it made me think about you know more than some people, you know less than some people at the same time. So if the whole group walks along, they realize I know more than everybody and I know less than everybody in this group on certain things.
Yeah. Right.
And the challenge is, like stated in the Voice of the Silence, to look for those who know even less than you, to show them the way.
Yeah,
that's compassion, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, Joke? Oh.
The whole life journey is like a reference. Every event is like a reference of our acceptance and patience of being aware of the higher consciousness, which is actually functional always for each one of us. And if we have to work through all the understanding of reincarnation and karma and the hierarchies, then it's a lot of work. But once we accept and stay in the awareness, the higher consciousness is working smoothly and very beautifully through us. There is no struggling of being as a higher being, as a low being. It's staying in the space of neutrality, which simply is always functional for us.
Yeah, it's always there, only we have to listen. Yeah, okay.
I think Richard is right. The moment you are in the group, your personality is least important. The moment you feel yourself more important than others, automatically you place yourself outside the group. So the sign is right.
Yeah, sure.
I guess I would say it's a koan, a puzzle that Richard poses. And maybe for some people, they need to speak up. Maybe for other people, they need not to speak up. So for every person, in every situation, it depends. And it's something that you answer momentarily, moment by moment in your life. And that's why it's an art. It's art of living. And everyone is on their own journey. Some people need to speak up. They haven't spoken up. Maybe that's what they have to learn, is to speak up. And other people, maybe, like me.
Yeah. But
keep thy mouth shut.
Yeah. I think you can speak up without feeling more important, right? Yeah. Okay. Herman, you stand up, so it is time.
Yeah, sorry to break this nice conversation. We run a little bit out of the planned time. I think it is time to start for a lunch break. We are a half hour late.